I'm Savannah and today I'm showing you how to make a checkerboard cake. So here I just have 2 packets of cake mix. I'm just using the packet mix because I find that it holds colour a lot better. So I'm going to make that as the instructions on the back. I've mixed all my cake batter and I've separated it into 3 even lots. So now I'm going to colour it. Now I want some really bright colours, so I'm going to make 1 yellow, 1 pink and 1 purple. So you've got to be really careful with these so that they don't stain your bench top. And then just mix it in really well. Okay, so as you can see, I've coloured all of my cake batters. Now, I'm sure it would look much better if I had fluoro ones, but that's okay, I still like these colours. So, now what we need to do is we need to put them into our tin. Now, I've lined this tin. First I've sprayed it with some baking spray, and then I've just lined it with some baking paper. So that'll just help the cake to come out a lot easier, rather than stick to the bottom and sides. Now just bake your cake to whatever the instructions say on the packet, or if you're going to bake it, just a skewer inserted into the middle of the cake comes out completely clean and it's nice and springy to touch. So this is filling to maybe 1/3 to half of the way up. That's okay because it is going to rise. And we just want some nicely baked cakes. So once I've poured my cake batter in, I like to give it a bit of a bump because you'll see lots of bubbles, air bubbles breaking, and if you don't pop them, then in the middle of the cake you're going to get these little kind of empty spaces, which I mean, it's okay, but I want quite firm cakes. So I'm just going to pop this in. I'd say this is probably going to take about half an hour. So I will see you back when I've baked all 3 of these cakes. I've made these cakes, it took a little while to bake, but now I've got 1 full cake to show you. Now we need to cut this into circles, it needs to be in about thirds. So I don't have cutters meant for cookies or cakes, so I'm just trying to find something that's approximately the right width I need. So I'm going to use this bowl. Now just kind of try and get it as even as you can, and I'm just going to cut around the bowl. Now I'm using this as my smaller inside one. Just place it as centered as you can get it. It's not too important if it's a little bit off, as long as the circle. I've just popped this cake into the fridge for about half an hour, 45 minutes. It makes it a lot easier to cut because it's a bit firmer. So now we need to carefully pull out our cake. There we go. So you could do this before, but I've got a little bit of brown on the top, so I'm just going to, with a bread knife, just really thinly cut that off and make it as flat as you can. You don't have to do this, but it will help to make it more stable base because we're going to be putting all the cakes on top of each other, so this makes it quite flat rather than the kind of dome shape that you get on cakes. You don't have to, but it will make the cakes sit a bit better on top of each other. I don't really mind, this bit's kind of soft still, it's not too hard. So, but I've made some buttercream frosting here. Now, we need to, I'm going to use a knife, put a little bit on the insides of all the circles. Now this acts like glue, so put a decent amount on, but you don't need to worry too much about any of the crumbs, just put it all on. I've just coated the inside of the cakes with a decent amount of icing. Now, we need to put these in place the middle thirds into one of the bigger ones, and then obviously the smaller one. Now don't be afraid to give this a bit of a push. Now we just need to make sure that when we put them in, we get all of our different colours without kind of getting two of the same of anything. Okay, now if you've got any gaps like this, that's okay. We can just fill that with some of our icing. That will stick it together nicely. Now to assemble my cake. To stick them down, you need to get a little bit of buttercream right in the middle of, in this case, my cake platter. Doesn't really matter what you're using. Now, very carefully, I'm going to flip this round side over just so that the top of it is super flat. So, excellent. Okay, we need to frost at a decent amount of buttercream. It's easiest with an offset spatula. You can use a spoon, you can use a knife, really doesn't matter. We need to ice a layer in between each cake. Now make sure you go right to the edges, that way when we crumb coat our cake next, it's just going to be a lot easier to clean it and you don't need to get as much icing into the cracks. Now if it breaks, it doesn't really matter. As long as it doesn't break into a million little pieces, you can just get some frosting and stick it together. When it sets, it's really good glue. So give that a push down. And there we go. And plonk it on top. Looking good. Okay. And again, last layer on top. It's time to give this cake a crumb coat. So we need to give quite a generous, but not too thick, layer of icing all around the cake to fill in a lot of gaps. Now the point of crumb coating, if you're not familiar with it, is to really trap all of the crumbs onto the cake so that when you ice it the second time, you know, to look nice, you don't get all of these crumbs. So it is really just a nice clean cake, especially if you're doing white icing. You don't want all of these colourful crumbs in it. It just doesn't look as nice. Make sure you get in as much of the gaps as you can. That way when you ice it the second time as well, it gives it a really smooth finish rather than kind of see there are kind of, you know, little holes in there, which just doesn't look as nice as a smooth white cake. Okay, so I've had this sitting in the fridge for about 20 minutes. It's dry. It's not, you know, it's not frozen or anything. It's just dry, which means when I touch my hand on top of the icing, nothing comes off. Now, we're going to frost it just so that it looks nice. So you can't see any of the crumbs underneath, just so it looks nice and white. So you will need a fair amount of icing to begin with, but afterwards we're going to be smoothing it off. So we're not going to be tasting all of the icing. We've just got to get it on to begin with so that we can smooth it. Now this is a lot easier if you have a cake turntable, but I don't. So for now I've got to keep lifting this hefty cake board, but that's okay. Still manageable. I've covered the entire cake nicely with the frosting. Now we have to clean it up. So for this you could use a ruler. I'm just going to use the side of my offset spatula, and you can actually get these little tools that are made for cleaning up the side of cake, so whatever you have. I'm just going to take, and this would be a lot easier if I had a Lazy Susan or something. You just scrape it on the side. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on this, it just has to be touching. Trying to get it as evenly as possible. Now, I have a cloth here because you really want this clean in the middle, well, in between each time, otherwise it's not going to be completely smooth. You're probably going to get some bumps and lumps in it. So, keeping it as straight as possible, just around the cake. Now, if you see any little gaps, you can add a little bit more icing. Okay, for the top, you'll see it kind of has this pointed edge, I guess. Now, to fix that, you really need to very lightly just touch the top, slide it into the middle. That will just smooth the edge. Remember, cleaning this in between every stroke. Smooth the edge. I'm very happy with the finished result. It is a beautiful, bright checker cake. Comment any recipes you want me to make down in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.